Hi everyone, I'm Amelia from the Brand Experience team and welcome to another episode of Providend's Money Wisdom Podcast. And today we have Chris, our CEO, with us to talk about his latest Business Times article. And this one's very interesting. It's what my US trip taught me about homelessness, succession planning, and retiring overseas. So welcome Chris to the show. Okay, you just returned from a 2-week-long business trip.
Yeah, I'm still jet lagged.
Still jet lag.
Very
Oh no,
tired.
so poor thing.
Aging, part of aging. It takes a long time to get rid of the jet lag.
So, okay, although we miss you at the office, I'm glad because of your trip, we have this chance to talk about the insights that you had from the trip. So, for the first question, you witnessed the reality of homelessness in the US and shared concerns about rising costs of housing in Singapore. So, for young Singaporeans who are looking for home ownership and trying to balance that with saving for the future, what advice would you give to them without compromising their quality of life?
Yeah, so the situation in the US, as I had written on the Business Time, was really, really bad. And I shared on the papers that I've been to US almost every year since the late 90s. But this time around, it's probably the worst that I've seen. And, well, I was saying that as much as in Singapore, we are very far from the situation in the US, we cannot be complacent because one day, if you are not careful, I know it's quite unthinkable, but if you are not careful, maybe we will become like what US is today. And I think for young people, it is very important to buy something that they can afford, right? I know that, when we first started out in the corporate world, we all have dreams in owning the kind of property that we have always dream about. We want to buy maybe an executive condominium or even a condominium. We want to buy a place whereby it is convenient. But all this comes with a price, right? So I'll say the first thing I think the young people should do is to buy something that they can afford. Do some calculation. I've given some guide in the article that I've written. I've said that if you add up all your total debt, including your mortgage, it should not constitute 40 to 45% of your gross income. So do some calculation. If you worked it out, and that means that you can only buy a 4-room flat, and you can only buy a 4-room flat that is quite far away from town, then I would say do that, right? I mean, Singapore is not that big. Even though it is far, it is still not too difficult to commute to work. But do that. Don't buy something that is so expensive that it is into your disposable income. Not only you don't have enough money to save for the future, you may not even have enough money to live the life that you want to live now. I know when you first want to buy a property, it can be very exciting, right? But after you stay in the house for 1 year, 2 years, you may feel very miserable that you are actually owing the bank a lot of money. You will feel very miserable that even when you want to go to a nice restaurant to have a good meal, you have to think twice, think thrice, you won't get that quality of life. So I'll say buy something that you can afford, buy something that you can make sure that you can pay off. Yeah, so that will be a good balance between owning a house and at the same time living a decent quality of life.
Yeah, I think it's really a trade-off. And if you really need to stay near town, you can have a smaller apartment. So it's like that trade-off and try to make it as comfortable and simple as possible.
Yeah, the key is to make sure that you can afford it. Yeah, and sometimes people may tell you that don't just think of the present. Think of the potential of this house, appreciating it in its value. I mean, I understand that, but that should not be done at the expense of affordability. Yeah, so I'll say that for young couples just starting out buying that first house, I think affordability is very important.
I think that's very wise. Yeah. So, okay, in your article, you also mentioned about your preference for living debt-free. Okay, despite the common financial advice to leverage debt. Yeah. So what emotional impact have you observed in our clients when they transit from living debt-free with a clear sense of what they're saving towards, and how do you feel that from our clients?
Yeah, I think sometimes when we are younger, we don't think too much about it. But as you become older, and a lot of our clients are a lot more senior, they realize the benefit of traveling very light, right? So when they are near their retirement, when they pay off all their debts, when they have no liability, I can sense that they have that complete peace of mind. They know that nobody can take the house away. They know that they are not afraid that they are unable to pay the mortgage. So I can see that, emotionally, they feel a lot more rested. And I think that's probably the most important thing in life, right? I mean, we can own a lot of things, but if we owe a lot of money, even though we have all these things, I'm not sure whether we will be truly happy.
Yeah, there's that peace of mind when you actually, even though you can actually leverage to invest, but that peace of mind to know you have a paid off home is quite priceless.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it always seems to be very attractive to be able to borrow money, and then to reinvest it at a higher return. I mean, some we hear people doing that, right? So they borrow and then say, for example, they pay an interest rate of 2 to 3%, but there is that promise that, if you invest this money, maybe you can get 6 and 7%. All this may sound very good, but what happens if you lose a job? How are you going to pay off that monthly repayment? What happens if your investment don't turn out well? Right? I mean, these are things that we don't think about when we first go into that loan. So yes, I understand the power of leverage, but like I said in the article as well, that I'm a bigger believer of having that peace of mind that comes from being debt-free.
And I think that's something that our clients are very blessed, and we are also very blessed to be able to provide this kind of authentic advice to them.
Yeah, in fact, I just came out from a meeting and someone was asking me whether Providend, we believe in getting the clients to borrow money to invest so that they can get a higher return. I immediately said no. I mean, it's not just my belief, but it's also the firm's belief that we will not encourage clients to borrow money just to invest. Like I said, even though we understand the power of leverage, but leverage is a double-edged sword, right? You can make, but you can lose as much as well, even more as well. It is more important to have that peace of mind.
Okay, so moving on to reflecting on your daughter's experience in her job hunt. So for young people who feel disillusioned with job prospects, how can they strike a balance between career fulfillment and financial stability?
Yeah, when I first started out working, now more than 30 over years ago, I think many of us, we didn't start working or getting a job thinking about what job fulfillment is all about. It was really a matter of being able to earn money and survive. So when I first started working, I signed on with the army at a young age of 19 years old because I needed to. My parents, they didn't have enough money, and I wanted to earn my own money. Not just to support myself, but also to have the money to pay for my education. So I worked for 6 years in the army, and then after that, because my first degree is in finance, I wanted to get a job in the financial services sector, but unfortunately that was 1997, and I couldn't get a job because 1997 was Asian financial crisis. So I went to join the pharmaceutical industry for about 1 year and 3 months. Did I enjoy my 1 year, 3 months stint? Yes, I enjoyed it. But is that something that I found fulfillment in? Not really. And it was only after my stint in pharmaceutical that I came into the financial services industry. Now, why am I telling you this? I mean, what I'm really sharing is that we all learn something. When I first started in the army, in that 6 years, I learned so many things. When I spent that 1 year, 3 months with the pharmaceutical company, although that was not a job that I see myself doing in the long term, I learned many things as well. And all these things that I've learned, when I finally came into financial services, especially when I run and founded and run Providend, many of these things that I've learned in those jobs that are not very fulfilling, it helps me apply to Providend. And today I'm doing something that is very meaningful. So for young people whom you are just out there looking for a job, I will say that, don't be too worried that in your first job, it is not really a job that will give you meaning. It is not really a job that will give you fulfillment. Just take on that job. Over time, you become clearer and clearer on what are the jobs what are the things that you really want to do that will give you that satisfaction. And all those jobs that you do in the past that seemingly may not be that satisfying, you will find that the many things that you learn in this job, you can use it in the job that you are doing much later. Yeah, so I think that's the advice that I will give, and it's the same advice that I give to my own children. You don't always need to find that first job that is perfect. It's not easy, and especially when you're young, you don't really know what you want.
Too idealistic in a way.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's good to be idealistic. It's good to have ideals, but at the same time, I guess we also need to be realistic. And really, I mean, using my daughter as an example, she is 22 years old. I mean, she has a long way more, right? And when you are young, when you are in your 20s, you don't really know what you want. So start with something. Learn some skill set. And at the same time, through some of these jobs, you will become clearer on the things that you want to do.
Actually, even at my age, I don't want to say my age, but at my age...
25 or so, of course you have a long way more
at my age, I still am discovering that, and sometimes that journey continues on. And I think sometimes planning, I'm a planner, but when you plan too hard, sometimes you just got to take life as it comes, right?
Yeah, and also, I think sometimes when people say that, or rather people ask like, what's your passion, work in a job that you are passionate about, I think it's a bit overrated because not many people will know exactly what they are passionate about. I think it is better to be in a job and be passionate about it. I think there's a difference between finding your passion and being passionate about it, right? You go into a job, it is sufficiently meaningful, and you are good at it, and you put a lot of energy into it. That's what being passionate is all about. Yeah, so I think people must look at it that way.
Okay, so with this in mind, with housing prices and job security being major concerns for younger Singaporeans, shifting our focus to parents, what advice will you give to parents who want to support their children without jeopardizing their own retirement?
Yeah, I think this is something that a lot of parents are concerned with, and even as I speak to my peers, many of them are talking about helping their children buy a house. I mean, in the past, I would say no, because I guess I'm old school, and I always say that in the past my parents didn't help me buy a house. I managed to buy a house myself, and I want my children to go through the same path. But I guess today it is quite different. Yeah. It's increasingly more and more difficult for our children to be able to afford a house. And so if parents, you really want to help your children buy a house, I'll say have a balance. I think we should not give them so much money or we should not help them so much that they do not appreciate the benefit of hard work. Help them enough to maybe own the first house in the form of a HDB flat. There is no need to help them own a condominium. There's no need for them to actually help them own a private property. Just to make sure that, after you have helped your children, you still have enough for your own retirement.
Have you been overwhelmed by market uncertainty in a landscape crowded with misinformation? Our new ebook, A More Reliable Way to Get Enough Investment Returns, is here to help. Each chapter is carefully curated to help you overcome confusion and empower you with knowledge that prioritizes reliable returns, guiding you towards a fulfilling investment experience. Check out the link in the show notes to download a complimentary copy of the full ebook today. Thank you, and let's get back to the episode.
So in the previous podcast episode, we discussed business exit and succession planning. So you mentioned that in the article, there's a US advisory firm, 5-man team, managing 1.3 billion worth of clients' assets.
Same amount as us, 1.3 billion.
Wow.
And
So
we have many, many more times the number of people as compared to them.
to me, that is quite a risky situation. So for Providend, how are we prepared for our next generation of leaders so that succession planning and continuity happens for our clients' sake?
Yeah, so as you know, Amelia, we started our succession planning since some 4 years ago. It is really a 10-year succession plan. I mean, my objective is to make sure that we have a team of people, and well, 4 years have passed, right? In 6 years' time, by 2030, if the founding team needs to or want to retire, we can retire. We are ready to hand over the reign to a second generation of leaders. And that's why 4 years ago, one of the things that we have done is that we have identified a team of what we call G2s, and you know who they are. There are 6 of them. We have introduced these 6 second generation leaders to our clients. We have not just identified them and made them known. What we have done is that we have given them many opportunities to lead. These 6 of them, they are sitting in our management team. They are learning how to manage the companies. They are undertaking different projects so that by the time when we are ready, they are also ready. And this team of people, quite recently, just a couple of weeks ago, they have also participated in the employee share purchase scheme, meaning to say that these 6 of them today are now shareholders, right? So that by the time we are ready to leave, you will have a new team of our clients will have a new team of leaders that are not just employees, but they are also shareholders of the company. So that's what we have done. Over and above identifying leaders and training them, we are actually really investing for the future of the firm. I mentioned about this firm that I met when I was in the US. I mentioned in the papers that today they have a profit of about 65% to 70% of the revenue. That's really, really impressive, right? But to me, that also means that the company is not investing for the future. The 5 of them are actually taking this profit for themselves. At Providend, that's not what we have done over the last 4 years. We have taken a large amount of our profit and reinvesting it into the company. In fact, in our most recent management retreat, we have sort of like drawn up a plan for the future generation. It is a 2035 plan for the future generations of people in Providend. The founding team today is using the profit today, which we could have taken for ourselves, pay out as dividend for ourselves, but the founding team decided that we will not do that. In fact, or instead, we will reinvest this money into the company to build things that the founding team will not even see. Because by 2035, many of us will be in the late 60s. Some of the founders will be closer to 70 years old. It's quite likely that we would have retired. We will not be here to see the fruits of this investment right now. So we felt that that's the correct thing to do. In a way, it is what the founding leaders in Singapore they have done. Today, the Marina Bay Sand, the Gardens by the Bay, the whole entire Marina Bay area, it was the vision of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. But he's not here to see it already. He has invested it for the younger generations like us to witness it. And we felt that we have to do the same thing for Providend. So, that's the succession plan for us. And in a way, we feel that this is not just being responsible to our colleagues here at Providend, but it's also being responsible to our clients to make sure that the firm continues to run very strongly, right? And the client's interests can be taken care of.
That truly brings a peace of mind, especially for clients, I would think so. So the last very important question. You talked about the importance of living where you belong, with the people you love, doing purposeful work. So can you share with me some simple steps for our listeners who maybe haven't heard this before to ensure that they're aligning their financial plans with this definition of a good life?
Yeah, so at Providend, we always say that we should make life decisions first before making financial decisions. Right? What is this life decisions? Now, this life decisions is in the form of life goals. So how do we make our life goals? So I gave a working definition. It's a working definition because all of us, the way we define a good life is different. But this is a working definition for you to expand on if you want. And that working definition is that living a good life is living at the place you belong, with the people you love, doing the right work on purpose. So before you even make financial decision, first decide what that good life means to you. Where is the place that you belong? Where is the country that you belong? Where is the country you want to stay in, you want to retire in? Who are the people that you want to stay with? What is the kind of work that you do that will give you meaning, right? Once you have decided on that, the next step then is to find out how much it will cost for you to be able to do all these things, to stay at the place that you belong with the people you love. What does it cost you to do the work that you want to do? And then once you have worked that out, then you adjust your financial affairs to make sure that you have the money, you have the ability to live that good life. So it is life decision first before making the financial decisions.
So, wow, that's a very nice way to end this podcast. So do you have anything else you want to share with our listeners?
I think the other thing that I think we have spoken about in our previous podcast is on this whole topic of ikigai. And I know many of us would have heard of this Japanese term ikigai. It's really a word that is made up of two Japanese words, iki and gai, right? And iki is about daily living and gai is about things that are worth your time doing, right? So in a way, ikigai is life decision, right? In a way, when we define what is a good life, living at a place where you belong with the people you love and doing the right work is ikigai. Because these are the things, the place where you stay and the people that you love and the work that you do, these are the things that gives you meaning in your daily life, right? So decide what are your ikigai goals before you arrange your financial affairs to make sure that you can live out your ikigai goals. I think I've always said that if we first make financial decisions and then we adjust our lives to support the financial decisions, it can be disastrous. So don't do it that way. Start with first making ikigai decisions before making financial decisions.
Thank you so much, Chris. And I believe for our listeners who are listening to this for the first time, it will be, if you have to just take away one thing, this would be it, which is to find your ikigai. So with that, we've come to the end of our podcast. Thank you, Chris, for coming on the show, and we hope everyone has enjoyed the discussion on Chris's latest Business Times article on homelessness, succession planning, and retiring overseas, lessons that he has learned from his recent US trip. So if you like this episode, please rate and like us on your favorite podcast platform. Until the next episode, we'll see you again soon. Goodbye. All analysis, views, or opinions from interviews, recommendations, and other information broadcasted, podcasted, or published herein are provided for general information purposes only. Information expressed does not take into account any specific situation, particular needs, or objectives, and should not be construed as specific advice or a recommendation. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Providend Limited does not accept any liability for any loss whatsoever arising from any use of the information broadcasted, podcasted, or published herein. All contents and information contained herein may not be copied or reproduced in whole or in part by any means without prior consent of Providend Limited.